I remember the first night we made love. The air was thick with tension, the kind of tension that had been building for weeks. Laurent and I had danced around it for so long, pretending it wasn't there, pretending I wasn't drawn to him in ways I couldn't explain. But that night, everything came crashing down. We were alone at the beach, the moonlight casting long shadows over the sand. I was the one who made the first move, stripping down to nothing and daring him to join me in the water. He resisted at first, but I could see it in his eyes. He wanted me just as much as I wanted him. When he finally gave in, when he finally pulled me close, it felt like the whole world disappeared. The moment Laurent wrapped his arms around me, it was as if the floodgates opened. His touch was hesitant at first, but I could feel the restraint slipping away with every second. The warmth of his skin against mine sent a shiver down my spine, and as our lips finally met, the electricity between us sparked into something uncontrollable. The kiss was deep, hungry, filled with all the desire we had been holding back for so long. I could feel the pounding of his heart against my chest, matching the rhythm of my own. As he pulled me closer, our bodies pressed together under the soft glow of the moon. We stumbled backward into the water, the coolness of the sea a sharp contrast to the heat between us. Laurent's hands roamed over my body, exploring every inch of me as if trying to memorize it. I gasped as his lips found my neck, his breath hot against my skin, igniting a fire inside me that I couldn't control. There, with the waves lapping at our feet, it felt like we were the only two people in the world, lost in our own moment, where nothing else mattered but the way we moved together. Every touch, every kiss felt like a release of all the tension that had built up between us for so long. As we sank down into the sand, the world around us faded away. His touch became more urgent, our breaths quick and shallow as we gave in completely to the moment. There was no space for doubt, no room for regret, just the raw, intense connection between us. The sound of the ocean became a distant hum, drowned out by the beating of our hearts and the soft whispers of our name as we fell deeper into each other. It was reckless, it was wild, and yet in that moment it felt like It was reckless, it was wild, and yet in that moment it felt perfect, like we had been waiting for this all along. After that night everything changed. I couldn't look at Laurent without feeling that same pull, that same desire. I knew it was wrong. I knew that my father trusted him, that he was supposed to be like family, but none of that seemed to matter when we were together. Laurent tried to push me away, tried to tell me that we couldn't do this, but every time he did, I found a way to pull him back in. I was relentless and he couldn't resist me. I told myself that it was love, that what we had was special, but deep down, I knew it was something darker, something more dangerous. It all started when we went on holiday together. My father, Laurent, his daughter Mary, and me. We were staying at my father's family home on a remote tropical island, and from the moment we arrived, I could feel the tension between Laurent and me. My best friend Mary was oblivious to what was happening, but I couldn't stop thinking about Laurent. He was older, more experienced, and I was infatuated. My father, Antoine, was too caught up in his own troubles to notice. He was going through a divorce, though he refused to admit it, and he was more concerned with keeping up appearances than paying attention to what was happening under his nose. The first few days were innocent enough. We went to the beach, we explored the island, and Laurent played the part of the cool, carefree dad. But then, things started to shift. One afternoon, while we were abseiling down a waterfall, Laurent helped me with my wetsuit, his hands lingering just a little too long on my skin. I could see the way he looked at me, the way his eyes followed me when he thought no one else was watching. And I liked it. I liked the power I had over him, the way I could make him squirm with just a look. It wasn't long before things escalated. That night, after my father had gone to bed, Laurent and I found ourselves alone again. I dared him to go for a swim with me, teasing him as I stripped off my clothes and ran into the water. He tried to resist, but I knew he wouldn't be able to. When he finally joined me, the electricity between us was undeniable. We kissed under the stars and everything spiraled from there. I wanted him, and I knew he wanted me too, even if he wouldn't admit it. From that point on, we couldn't stop. Every time we were alone, we found ourselves drawn to each other, like magnets that couldn't be pulled apart. It was reckless, and we both knew it, but we couldn't help ourselves. There was something thrilling about the danger, about the fact that we could be caught at any moment. I convinced myself that Laurent loved me, that what we had was real, but in reality I was just a girl playing with fire. Things came to a head the night of the party. Mary and I had convinced our fathers to let it go out, and Laurent came along to keep an eye on us. I had planned it all. I'd make Laurent jealous, make him see that he couldn't have me if he wasn't willing to be with me completely. But when I saw him flirting with another woman, something snapped inside me. I was furious and I stormed over to him, pretending to be drunk so he'd have to take me home. Once we were alone, I threw myself at him, kissing him like my life depended on it. He tried to push me away, but I was relentless. The next morning, everything fell apart. Laurent was distant, cold even. He tried to end things between us, but I wouldn't let him. I threatened to tell my father if he didn't admit that he loved me, and with no other choice, he said the words I had been desperate to hear. But even as he said them, I knew they weren't real. It was over, and I couldn't bear it. In the end, it was Mary who figured it all out. She saw the way Laurent and I acted around each other, the way we couldn't hide the truth any longer. She confronted me, furious that I had betrayed her trust, and for a while, I thought I had lost my best friend forever. My father, oblivious to it all, continued on with his life, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around him. Laurent and I tried to keep our distance after that, but it was too late. The damage had been done, and there was no going back. My father never found out the truth, but I could see the guilt eating away at Laurent. He knew what he had done was wrong, and eventually he left, disappearing from my life just as quickly as he had entered it. I was left to pick up the pieces, the consequences of my actions. Mary and I eventually reconciled, though things were never the same between us. As for Laurent, I don't know what happened to him. Part of me wonders if he ever thinks about me, if he regrets what we did. But in the end, it doesn't matter. What's done is done, and I have to live with the choices I made.